That said, I would like to officially open the February 24th meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission, and we'll start with a roll call. As always, I am Brian Barabee.
Jim Stone.
Jeff Lawrence.
Laura Stevenson.
Liz Lucas.
Karen Whitfield.
Okay. First up tonight, we have Paul Slade to discuss Lot 1 of Century Mill Road at notice of intent. Have anybody here? Yes, we do.
Good evening.
How are you?
How are we doing?
Good.
So do you want me to, it's a little bit of an awkward spot. You want me to set this up on a board or just put it or over there? Or?
You want to bring it down? Bring it down?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're trying to.
Awesome. That way we can smile at the camera.
Century Mill Road, not to be confused with Century Mill Estates.
Correct.
This is Central Street Mill Road. All right. Are we open?
We are, yes.
Excellent. So,
yes, if you could introduce yourself,
yeah, sure.
please.
Scott Goddard, wetland scientist and owner of Goddard Consulting, here representing a proposal for a new single-family house dwelling. I have some administrative items for you. Would you like the green cards for the notices?
Yeah, please.
Okay, great.
And I should, sorry, we're a little off tonight.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
going to bump back. I should open it officially.
Go ahead.
The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Massachusetts Wetland Bylaw and the Wetland Bylaw Protection Act of Town of Bolton. Tonight, February 24th, to hear the notice of intent from Paul Slade, Lot 1, Century Mill Road.
Excellent.
That's everything we need.
And we have light.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right. So also administratively, we have a DEP file number, which is 112-0641. So before I get into the particulars of this project, I want to sort of orient you big picture because you saw me not too long ago for another single-family house lot in this immediate proximity. So since then, the property has been divided into two parcels, and an A&R plan has been recorded, by the plan. No, it hasn't been recorded yet, but it was approved by the planning board. So when you saw me last, you saw me under a notice of intent for a single-family house proposed in this location right here. At the time, I showed you a site plan that showed the entirety of the property, and maybe it just focused in on this one particular area. That's a very large parcel. It's 11 and change acres, 11 and a half acres. So we came in with what we then referred to as Lot 1 on Century Mill Road, which is now being retagged as Lot 2. But it's important that you see this plan so that you understand why we're here and what we've accomplished since then. So we have an existing order of conditions and a approval from the Board of Health to construct a single-family house in this dwelling with the driveway coming in through here. That was reviewed by this commission in this past calendar year. I don't remember exactly the month of it, but it was probably less than 6 months ago, I want to say, something like that.
Site visit.
Right.
And we had a site visit, and Michelle was out there at the site visit and with the board at the time. So since then, the engineer has determined that there's enough area in land to meet the requirements of frontage lot under the zoning provisions of the town of Bolton, and has created this internal lot line and has now separated this property into two properties. And so the purpose of my meeting with you tonight is to seek approval for an additional single-family house lot, which is now located right up here, close to the road. So what we're referring to now as Lot 1 is what's consistent with this A&R plan. We have, for the purposes of the Board of Health, renamed our site plans for what was then Lot 1, now Lot 2, as Lot 2 in order to clean their records. If the commission would like to do the same for its own record-keeping purposes for this, I do have extra copies of that plan tonight that I could give you. You don't have to take them, you don't need them, but if it helps you so you don't have the Lot 1 confusion, that may be something you want. Also, I have extra copies of this A&R plan if you would like that as well as a reference tool so you can distinguish these two properties, because we have an order of conditions already for this, and we'll be seeking another order of conditions down for this piece. So that's sort of an overview of how we reach where we are.
Have they already agreed to split it?
Yes.
Then they've agreed there's enough front?
Yes.
You know, if I'm being honest,
Well,
like, just conditioning that one lot was horrible. I mean,
Sure.
that, in my mind, never should have been a lot. It's in the middle
Sure,
of a ton of wetlands.
sure.
Putting two houses down, I think is ridiculous.
Right, so,
I'm not sure,
Right, so this
they
one was-
finally signed off on this?
yeah,
This was,
well,
I don't even think one house should go in
there's a
there.
crazy amount of frontage here. I mean, this here is 200 feet. So it's
Right, and that's a
2, 4,
huge
6,
vernal pool, like gigantic vernal pool, the entire
Right,
front of
so
that
it's
lot.
something like 800 to 1,000 linear feet of
I'm
frontage.
not worried about it.
How many
It's
square
the
feet is
amount
that
of
vernal
dry
pool?
land
Sure.
For the house and the septic tank.
Right, so we'll get to that, but the reason I'm showing you this
Please,
is so
yeah.
that you understand the context. So this is where you've approved prior
Right.
work here, okay? Over here, there's, this area here is existing developed as a single-family house. So this piece of land right in here is in the immediate proximity to this existing house and lawn, as opposed to this one, which is more centrally located in a wooded environment.
Okay, and I think I want to be clear that our existing order of conditions was for, how many acres is the two lots put together here, Scott? It was almost 10,
11 and a half.
Yeah.
11 and a half.
There.
Our existing order of conditions was for an 11-acre lot, right? And now it's being subdivided. I don't see how our existing order of conditions
Yeah, would
applies to
apply.
lot 2, given the fact that it was for a much larger parcel.
The,
It
well,
was for different parcels, so I think it would need to be reconsidered.
Right, so I want to just be clear in my mind that our existing order of conditions was for an 11-acre parcel, not for a
Well,
6.
I don't think
Five.
the creation of changing of a lot line negates, because an order of conditions approves a certain amount of work.
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
think it's
no,
more
I
of a
think
buffer
it
zone
does.
thing.
I
It's-
think
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, but let's just, I wanted to say that.
So we can
Before we
flesh
go.
that out a little bit further, you know?
Mhm.
But an order of conditions, in my understanding, and I've been doing this for 20 years, it approves a certain scope of work. Like, for example, I could go out there today and construct that work
Yeah.
under the valid order conditions, right? And then come to you and ask for this request. You know what I mean? So it doesn't prohibit me from performing the work that's under the approved conditions.
Okay. But I thought the septic system was on lot 1.
No.
Well, the
it's not.
septic system isn't part of the buffer zone, right?
Correct,
And so we were allowing it to be a part of the buffer zone because it was such a large lot.
So now what you see here is the shaded area, the colored area, is the current lot that we're discussing,
Okay.
the new lot.
New lot line, yeah.
And for your context purposes, this is the driveway, house area, and approved septic area on the other lot.
Yep.
So that
Yep.
helps you for orientation. So none of the activities related to this construction fall within this new lot line. It's a completely different piece of property at this point.
I understand.
It's disjoint.
Yep.
So here we are again. A refresher on the wetland resource areas first is in order. So there is a perennial stream out in the back in the wetlands, and it's a fairly good ways back. This purple line here represents the 200-foot riverfront area. And it goes by various names. Danforth Brook, I think, is probably the most recognized name for the property. Millbrook is another name that you see sometimes on the plan. So it's either a branch of Millbrook or Danforth Brook, but different maps will label it differently. Nevertheless, it is a perennial stream and is present. We have a very well-defined BVW adjacent to it, which is this green line here. And the slope drops off quite abruptly at that boundary. Then, in the front here, we have the isolated land subject to flooding. And the boundary of that is out here in blue. That's also fairly well-defined. It's steep. And it's not a certified pool.
That was
It's-
one, that was.
it's
one
also
of the
certified.
last
Yeah,
That
it's
was
not a
part
partic-
of,
ones. I remember
on the
standing
other
there.
conditions
Yeah.
was to get it certified.
Yeah, it's not a potential
Wondering.
vernal pool in the maps, and no, evidence has been submitted about this kind of thing. It was something that I remember Michelle mentioned, as a possibility, but that it wasn't, prohibitory on the construction of what is now lot 2. So, So the boundaries of this are fairly well defined, and we walked these with, I think partly with the commission. I know I walked all of this with Michelle some months ago in terms of the boundary accuracy, and the slopes are very well. It's like, so I don't think there's a lot of flexibility on the boundaries. It is where it is. The 100-year floodplain elevations more or less follow the contours of the wetlands. So this elevation 312 is in drawn purple. So you can see it almost mimics exactly the wetland boundary. And down here also, 312 mimics the wetland boundary. So this is also an isolated vegetative wetland as well, so ILSF, IVW. So we have basically groundwater, edge of wetlands at 312 to the back and to the front. There's an existing developed house right here that has its own septic system, well, such like that. Their well is here. Their house is located right here, their septic system.
That's the gray Gambrel in 98.
Correct.
Yep.
Exactly.
And did it make the offset, so it is the 50 feet from their well?
Yep. So
Go ahead.
this plan,
Yeah.
what I have for you is this plan is slightly tweaked from the one that I gave you because it has now gone through Board of Health review. And so the plan that I gave you showed like an 11-foot offset instead of a 15-foot to the sideline. So I have a new plan for you to give to you. I'd like to, why don't I give you a copy of that A&R plan just so you have it in your files? I think it'd be helpful. But this,
Do you have an electronic copy?
I have electronic copies of everything.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yep, so this is the revised plan here that I'm presenting to you. And there's nothing of substance different on that plan than what I gave you.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing, it was a couple of
It's
minor
Board of Health
notes
offset.
that Bill Brookings wanted for the Board of
Okay.
Health approval. And so now Bill has confirmed that this plan is fully compliant with the Board of Health regulations. It doesn't need a waiver.
Right,
It doesn't
right.
need a variance. And he's reviewed it technically, and the Board of Health is all set to sign this off. We've had very recent conversations with Bill, and this is a compliant septic system for a 4-bedroom dwelling.
A 4-bedroom house is what's proposed there?
Correct.
Where's the well? Can I just ask where?
Yep.
I'm sorry, is
Yep.
it back right? Is
Yep,
that it?
right here.
And that's outside the, I mean, that's right on the border of, what's the red? Is
So
that the-
let me finish going over that.
I'm
So,
sorry, go ahead.
so our resource areas again, riverfront, BVW, ILSF. Under the Mass Wetland Protection Act, there's a 100-foot buffer zone coming off the wetland. So first you have the 25 here,
Yeah.
and then 100 puts you, out to here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything's
So
completely
this would be the 100-foot buffer zone under the state. level protection.
100% of the construction of this house is inside the buffer zone?
That's correct. Yep.
What's the total square footage? Do we even need to talk about this? Doesn't this go right to DEP? Because the entire dwelling is
Yeah.
inside the buffer zone.
Sure.
So I don't think we can condition that, right? What's the square footage of the house? I mean,
Well-
because if it's 1,500 square feet total getting disturbed, right? Then it goes, is that right to DEP?
No,
Or is that
that's not.
15,000 square feet?
DEP routine, Conservation
Yeah.
Commission is all routinely will approve houses in buffer zones. It's nothing unusual.
No, but there's a maximum square footage of, that can be disturbed before it's just out of our hands. We can't approve anything.
You're talking about something that would require a waiver under the Wetland Protection Act, and that would be
Yeah.
like 5,000 square feet of
5,000.
BVW
Right.
alteration. There's no maximum number of buffer zone alteration.
All right, so it's a board of right, yeah, it's buffer,
Buffer
it's
zone
a full in
is-
buffer
No,
zone.
That's
there is
Right,
zero
so-
work.
Right, in the BVW, yeah, I got you.
In fact, there's
On the
zero
buffer
work
zone.
being proposed in any resource area. There's no resource area alteration.
Well, the buffer zone,
But there's not a resource area.
no.
Right, so there's zero
It affects
resource
the
area.
area. The whole reason for the buffer zone is to protect the resource area.
The purposes
right?
of the order of conditions is to condition a project in a way that protects the buffer zone, and in a way that's why your
Right,
bylaw.
but putting the
requires
project right in the middle of the buffer zone, there's no way we can protect the buffer zone. It's 100% in the buffer zone.
So let me just finish running through the.
Go ahead, please.
So under the Wetland Protection Act, we have a 100-foot buffer zone here.
Yeah.
The Wetland Protection Act has no buffer zone to this.
Right, not yet, because that is a vernal pool, once we get it certified, but not yet, it isn't.
But even as
And I know, it's
even
not.
certified vernal pools have no buffer zone to them.
Yeah,
There's zero buffer zone
Right,
to
right.
a certified vernal pool, and there's zero buffer zone to an isolated landscape.
right.
So under state law, you can,
But the whole project's in the buffer zone, right? So it doesn't matter, right? Your entire project is in the buffer zone.
okay, so this isolated land subject to flooding
Sure.
does have a buffer zone under your local bylaw.
Yes.
Okay, so the Bolton bylaw takes up buffer zone, not just off of BBW,
Yep.
but also on isolated wetlands as well. So this 25-foot and this 100-foot is an added level of jurisdiction that this commission has
Correct.
because of the local bylaw.
Yes.
Okay, so your bylaw has two things in particular that affect this parcel that we had to comply with in order to bring this plan to you. And I wouldn't have brought this plan to you if I didn't think this complied with your local bylaw. One is that you require buffer zones to isolated wetlands and isolated land subject to flooding. We have that, and we've demonstrated where the 25-foot is from that. As well, you also have a no disturb buffer zone, not only of the ILSF, but also of BBW. So these darker red lines represent the 25-foot no disturb zone. And if you read the interest and the purposes of your 25-foot no disturb
Yeah.
zone, the presumption is that if you protect that inner 25 feet, okay, that the activities above that are unlikely then to have an effect on the resource area,
Right.
which is what you're trying to protect.
But if somebody's backyard opens into that 25 feet, because the backbone of their house is in it, and their deck actually goes onto that 25 feet, what kind of protection are we granting it?
So
It's gonna be trampled. It's a yard now. I mean, they have no backyard. Their deck goes into that buffer zone, right into the red. And you're gonna say they're not gonna walk off their deck? I mean, those driveways go on either side of that vernal, not certified vernal pool. They're both gonna flash down into it, right? I mean, both driveways are gonna drain into that pool.
Is it limited by the
That's
siting
insane.
of the
Who
septic
gave us a
system
split?
that it can't be moved in
Sorry.
this direction? Is the location of the house limited by the septic system so that it couldn't be moved slightly one direction? or the
right,
other?
so let me go through what the proposal is, and I can address that as well. So the area in red is the area of upland buffer zone that's not proposed for any alteration, which includes the entirety of the 25-foot.
But it's their backyard. Their backyard is upland buffer zone. Is the backyard proposed right now? Is walk right into the upland buffer zone.
So what we're proposing then
I'm
is-
just saying I'm correct, right?
No.
Their backyard is upland buffer zone.
That is
You
correct.
just
Okay.
can't kick a ball or.
Yeah, you can't walk off your deck
Right,
without trampling
I
buffer
couldn't
zone.
agree more.
I
And where do you even get your replication on a site like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's no place to replicate.
I think what he is giving us is a subordinate clause, and we haven't heard the rest of the sentence.
No, that's true, that's true. Yeah, I know, I'm amazed, it's blowing my mind that they allow.
I can tell you-
Let's
There's
just
say
no,
so.
like, this is no way
I want to
is
hear,
good in a
I want to hear
conservation
where he's going with
Go ahead,
this.
please.
Okay, so, by the way, since we're not altering any wetlands, there's no replication needed.
You're just
when
putting
you
a
don't
house
alter
right in the middle of it.
No, there's no
Okay,
wetland alteration proposed.
I understand that.
So we
But it's
are,
all buffer zone, right?
correct. But
Okay.
we're not, when you don't alter a wetland, you don't propose to replicate.
No, but we do three things. Avoid, which
Agreed.
we can see about avoiding.
Yeah.
Minimize. A four-bedroom house is ridiculous there. That whole lot's ridiculous. And then mitigate, like what can you give us back? What can you replace by what you're destroying? And nothing. There's no replication areas, there's no corner of yard to give back. Any yard for that house is gonna destroy like bordering vegetated wetlands, basically. And I know you're saying it's not, and we can check the maps and the lines. We'll definitely do a site visit, but I just think we have to go talk to some other town commissions. There's no way a four-bedroom house there. I'm surprised they put one house back there. Splitting it for two, putting a drive on either side of that vernal pool, that's just, we can't, I mean, I can't, in good conscience, find a way to put any conditions on that lot. That lot should not be built, just knowing the topography there. Knowing that topography, that's ridiculous.
Well, the purpose of us bringing a plan to you is to
Yep.
bring something to you that meets all the rules and regulations, right? A lot of
Sure.
design, careful engineering, Board of Health compliance, you guys have regulations that you set forth that we have to come forth. I can't advise my client
No, I
to come
understand.
before the
I
Conservation
understand.
Commission for a project that's not approvable. It's a waste of time.
Right.
Okay, so This was given careful thought on the design level in order to bring something before you that meets your standards, not something that doesn't meet your standards. So I don't believe I'm proposing something to you that is outrageous or outlandish or something outside of what your regulations specifically state are allowed in the town of Bolton. What's proposed is simply this: a new driveway, a septic system, which has to be kept outside. There's a 75-foot buffer zone right here. So this is the only spot right here where the septic system can go.
Is there a backup field?
Only,
Reserve field?
Yeah, it's in between.
is that true, or is that only if the house is in that location?
No, so the whole thing is driven first by the septic
Where it
system.
can
So
fit,
this
yeah,
is the only spot.
So
septic-
even if you didn't have a house, that's the only place you could
Correct.
put it?
That is the only.
But
place.
you could do a two-bedroom house and do a system half the size, am I correct? A significantly smaller system if it's like a two-bedroom house?
Well, yeah, you can always shrink things.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So what this, and this footprint here, to your point, this shows a maximum footprint of a dwelling. It's not to say that a dwelling is going to be built that size.
Right.
This isn't a specific house design. This is a project that it says, this is the footprint, it can be no greater than this footprint. So someone can do their individual house design in the interior of this, and all you need is enough room to walk around the house.
Right,
It's
right.
very trendy these days to not have expansive lawns and things like that. People want
Right.
to be more integrated into the woodlands and all that kind of
Not in
stuff.
that house.
What's that square footage there?
Of the house.
Of that maximum size for,
So this plan is a 20 scale plan, so that's 30 by, what is it about? Mark, is it 30 by 60? Is that what it shows?
I don't have those numbers.
What is this graphic scale
That's
down?
3 inches. Yeah.
down the bottom there?
Yeah, so it
On the
is,
left.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think it is, yeah, exactly. So 30 by 60. So that's a 1,800 square foot footprint.
So assuming 2 stories, that's
3,600, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's a
So that is the
maximum,
maximum for.
it's a maximum
Right,
size.
right, yeah, yeah.
It just shows
That's the
effectively
value
a
of-
box.
Right.
Now, we know the soils out here are coarse sand and gravel. So water doesn't run off of this property. It's high, coarse infiltration. This is the kind of stuff that people would mine out for septic systems. I mean, it's that good a material. So it's very easy we have proposed dry wells to recharge. We have a well over here, which has to be kept a certain distance away from the septic system. And it's also well more than away from the septic system over here. And yeah, you're right. It's a small property with the yard being, this area right in the front yard. And this area right here is kind of a little bit, encroached by the neighbors. So they kind of treat it like a little bit of their front yard right now as well. So this project is more contiguous with what is currently out there.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
On the lot 1.
Yes.
Or lot 2.
Yes.
Previously known as lot 1.
Yes.
Sounds like Prince. The lot previously known as
Yes.
lot 1. Is there lots of room and flexibility for the septic system?
No, that has the same problem. Right, so we have,
There wasn't even room for that.
so we have this, because that one has the wetlands on 3 sides,
Uh-huh.
right? So we have this little triangle,
front.
and that's the only spot that's.
So the possibility of having a shared system between the two of them
Right, no.
doesn't work.
So,
It was a question.
no, I understood. So I'm not saying, yes, we're gonna build a house there, and they're not gonna be able to walk around the back of their house. We're not proposing, any lawn. We can even put, and what I typically like to do when you have a no disturb buffer zone, is to put something like a little post and rail fence along there, so it sort of defines
Right.
that extent.
They never go
Yeah,
past it.
And, look, I understand.
No,
your
I understand,
concern.
no, and I understand, you gotta try to maximize the value of the land and what will fit and what will work.
It's not just about
In
maximizing
other
value
words,
of land,
to-
it's about saying, your
Oh,
regulations say
that's
this.
maximizing, I
Can we
mean,
do this?
you're maximizing the value of the
Can we
land,
do
you're
this?
trying to get the biggest thing you can.
So we also had to
There's
submit
no
this,
concern for what fits there.
we also
Don't
had
try
to,
to say that.
we also had to submit this to Natural Heritage.
Yes.
So Natural Heritage, because we have map
Parents
species,
take them out.
and they found that the project will not adversely impact any rare species habitat on the site.
Figure it's the same findings for the former lot,
Right.
now lot 2. As they said, it's landing turtle sites, but the site's open enough that it's not gonna cause much of a disturbance.
Correct.
Um,
Right, so they did issue that letter, you should have it.
Yeah,
February
I was in here, I
16th
did see it,
date
yeah.
as well.
Usually we'll do a site visit. I would say definitely do a site visit. I'm curious about doing your center lines, and it's tough because we're in between conservation agents right now. Because everything, it's convenient on your map, everything fits absolutely perfect. If that center line for the perennial stream comes in 10 feet, your whole thing is gone, right?
Sorry.
Everything signed off.
I'm missing what you're talking about.
Well, if this line moves in 10 feet, if this line moves in 10 feet, doesn't this whole line move in 10 feet?
No. Anybody else? in
No, that's
This line will move in.
The river is here, 200
Right.
feet is here.
Right, but
So
I'm saying,
there's no-
I want to check some of that flagging, because everything seems to fit just perfect. I mean, the
No,
fact that that well is
This
out of
doesn't,
it.
this doesn't trigger, the wetland boundary is this right here.
Right,
And
right. But the wetland boundary is triggered off, what's the center line of the perennial stream? You take 200 yards from that, right? 200 feet from that.
Correct.
And I'm saying, I'd like to check all those measurements, especially when we have a person here. Everything seems so
And we
tight.
can check all
Your
the
well
measurements.
seems to be so tight. I mean, everything is, it's
So what you're
scary.
saying, what you're saying is there's minimal.
Yeah, you know, we're off by
allowance
5 feet,
parameter.
right, and I trust you, I mean, you guys do a fantastic job, but for you to say, oh, it ends here, if you're off by 5 feet, doesn't that just throw your entire
No,
thing right
because
off?
if the river's off by 5 feet.
Yeah, move
the
that
river
in
front
5
line
feet.
goes 5 feet.
Right,
There's
move
nothing-
everything else in
No,
5 feet, right?
nothing is measured off of this line.
Okay,
It's measured off the river.
yeah,
This is the river front line.
correct.
So that's the end of where riverfront is.
Right, but if the river is 5 feet further to the south, that line goes 5 feet further
Like
south.
that. But
Right,
that
and then all
line,
your offsets,
that
right.
line could go 100 feet.
Oh, I
south,
get what you're
and
saying,
it
so
wouldn't
there's under
matter.
other offsets.
Right. No,
I don't know, I think we gotta get out, I've been out on that lot, that seems
Yeah.
wishful thinking that everything
So-
fits perfectly in there. It seems absolute wishful thinking.
so we did review this with Michelle.
Who is no longer here right now, and we haven't had a chance to talk to her about what she found.
I understand, but she did affirm at the previous one that she confirmed the lineation on this property, and that was in the consideration of the whole thing. There was no issue.
Wait, she did
But-
the original lot one, she
Yeah.
did this lot as well?
No, well, she looked at the whole property.
All right, but now we're changing, but now the property's being changed.
But I
It's
understand that, I understand.
right, and she's not here, so it's not like, we're not gonna be able to talk to her and get her thoughts on it. Like, anything that she may have said, it's not gonna play with us right now.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why, I have two reasons for wanting to take a look at it. One is I didn't get a chance to see it before.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And two, one of the reasons why I know what the house next to it is I live fairly close to that.
Sure,
And we are on a little plateau
sure,
in the midst of 5 acres of
Sure.
wetland.
sure.
That's what this is, the
Now,
White House.
It just happens that the property that we have, the part that's not wetland it's a plateau. I mean, it's sheer, it's like 25 feet dry. And it's very clear, if you don't go past that, you're not in any kind of trouble.
Right, right.
So I would like to see
And
what this is like.
this is a lot like that as well. Now, I want to say one other thing, in the spirit of, working with the commission.
Yeah.
We filed this application as a joint application under the Act and the bylaw, and it was filed, I think about 40 days ago.
Okay.
There was a statutory obligation for the commission. I understand Michelle is out, things were a little bit,
Sure.
with Linda trying to help out and all, that there was a statutory obligation to put this on within 21 days. We were persistent in trying to get that scheduled, and it didn't get scheduled in the time that it needed to. There is case law that suggests that a commission can no longer hold its authority under its bylaw,
Okay,
and that all statutory authority reverts to state law
okay.
if it fails to meet its.
Are you pursuing that?
Well, I'm saying this
Are
to
you
you.
just telling us
I'm
you
telling
can pursue it, so you
I'm
pursue
telling-
it or don't? Are you threatening us?
No, no,
That
no.
you're gonna pursue this if we don't
I'm
say
trying
this
to
is
explain
okay?
something to you. So
No,
that
I
you
understand what you're
understand.
explaining. So what are you trying to say? What is your
I'm
engagement?
saying that this project here
Yes,
was designed in a way to comply with your bylaw,
okay.
right? I mean, I'm not looking for a way to get into a legal battle with the commission.
No,
If you're
neither,
willing to
neither
work
I,
with
I'm
us
just saying,
on
like,
what's
you know, we'll go out,
proposed
we'll,
here, you gain more jurisdiction on this site if it has your bylaws, you know, authority over it.
Right, right.
If this was straight Wetland Protection Act, then there would be no 25 foot here, no 25 foot here, and there would be a lot more activity proposed on the site.
Right, right.
So your bylaw grants a greater degree of protection to the wetlands here.
I understand that. No, and, you know, and like I said,
And so-
happy to do a site walk, we can go out and we can try to condition this lot, but it's a really difficult one to condition.
Also, what I'm hearing is the sooner we do this, the better.
Yeah.
Well, and the weather's cooperating too, so, I mean, you know, if people have dates, it would make sense to get out there sooner than later, because I'm sure you guys want to get started as soon. You know, so we could get an early spring.
My point is,
I'm sorry, I just want to bring up, I looked up the filing for this online, and
Yeah.
it said that one thing that was missing from the application was the actual narrative on how it was delineated.
well, that's because they didn't have the information that it was tied in with the other delineation, so I didn't include that with this NOI. Normally, when you do an NOI,
Okay, well, it sounds like that's going to be really critical to understanding this, like, we need that again.
yeah, this delineation is, you know, in Massachusetts slang, a no-brainer. You know, it's like, you can see the floodplain line, it goes like this, and it goes like this. It's a very, very abrupt delineation.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's not one of these transitional kind of
It
deals.
really, yeah, it really is, if I'm remembering it from the former Lot 1.
There's
just
not
see-
gonna be any dispute over flags 5 feet here or there, it's just not gonna be the case.
What's the acreage of that space?
Well, the whole lot, which goes all the way to here, is 4.5 acres. So this has gotta be, geez, only a few thousand square feet, so if that's 60, 120, that'd be like 150 by at the most 100, not even 100. So you're in that 10 to 12,000 square foot range. So you're like a quarter of an acre of land. So a quarter of an acre and the rest of the 4.5 acres is unaltered.
All right.
I'm assuming with the soil types, being well drained, that it won't be a raised septic system, so if any proposal will be over the septic system.
Yeah, the water table here is like 9 or 10 feet down. I was there during the soil testing. And so, because the ground up here, you had mentioned about a plateau, the ground up here sits way up high, so there's our 320 contour line, so we're at 322. So we're at 322 here. The wetlands sit at 312. So the ground, to your plateau comment, is 10 feet above the wetland. And that 10 feet is all coarse sand and gravel. So the water all soaks in. This septic system is at grade, there's no mound
No road or
proposed,
anything like that.
right?
So,
Yeah.
so any kind of conditioning could be, maybe, keep things.
Yeah, you know, and
Pesticides.
pesticides, herbicides, I mean, it's all the regulars. I'd go with a smaller house, I would say the system has to be smaller. Gravel driveway, any of that, especially with the 2 driveways now, one on either side. And to Jeff's point, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think once you change what the old Lot 1 was, I think we need to look at our order of conditions again, and maybe we can't. We're trying to hire an agent, they'll know this better than us. But now, you know, 2 driveways on each side, I'd say they need to go gravel. No herbicides, no pesticides, I'd shoot the size of the house possibly, but I'd have to go out there and see the flagging. Because like you said, for the first house, it was obvious where the house was gonna go, because it was that plateau. It was, like, the driveway's gonna go here, the house is gonna go here, because everything else just dropped right off from there. And maybe this one is just as obvious, but that's,
I'm with you. Now, do you have, Scott, do you have an updated Lot 2 site plan that shows the house relative to this subdivision line?
Well, so what I just gave you there was the lot.
Is that changed?
And so this is something that you can
Well, I
put in.
think we need to quantify what did change, if anything, from the original plan.
Nothing.
To what?
Zero.
Being proposed.
This is the exact same. So I'll give this to you for your file. This shows, I'll put it right here, you can have this. This is what we're now calling Lot 2, but that is the exact same design. There is 0 proposed change in activity based on this new lot line creation.
We used to show, just like,
Yes.
all of that.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and when we walked this one over here, she didn't want, she didn't have a single plan change, and
But were there flags all the way?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
In fact, you can see here, they were shown all the way across in a consistent numeric series. Really, this isn't the kind of wetland that you're gonna get 10 professionals and 10 opinions on. This is the kind of wetland, it's 10 professionals, 1 opinion. It's that straightforward. So I've done thousands and thousands of sites, and I know the kind of wetlands that you end up having these transitional slopes, wetland vegetation creeps up the slope, down the slope, the soils are transitional soils. It's just not like that. You go from abrupt upland soils, break and slope, abrupt upland vegetation, abrupt wetland vegetation, wetland soil conditions at below the floodplain elevation.
It's the siting of the house that's.
And it's all in buffer zone, I mean, just the whole thing is in buffer zone.
Yeah, and I'll
Buffer
still,
zone.
I'll
Put
still go
that
back,
straight.
especially with a site like this, all right? And for me personally, approve this based on a big piece of land,
Sure.
right? So the total area of this parcel that was being disturbed relative to the complete acreage was acceptable, okay?
Smaller than what.
Now, I mean, now it's twice as much, in my opinion, it's twice as much damage because you're cutting the original lot in half. And the relative disturbed area versus the actual
Yeah,
land area
and
is up, and it's not the same. So I personally, I would need to understand, is our existing order of conditions still even apply to lot 2, given the fact that it's a different parcel? It's a different lot number, Scott. Maybe your scope of work hasn't changed, but it's a different shaped lot, it's a different size lot.
Oh, I
For
understand.
lot 2.
No, you can check into it all you want. I'm 100% confident on how that's handled.
Right? Because this is now a new property line, correct?
Correct. Well, it hasn't been recorded at the registry of deeds yet.
So there's no buffer lines from this property line as it affects this new dwelling?
Well, you have to hold setbacks to lot lines for your septic system and house,
Are
but
they on this plan?
those setbacks?
Yeah.
No, they don't need to be because we kept so far away, it's irrelevant. You only have to stay 15 feet away for your septic system, and I think it's 30 or 40 for the house. We're 100 feet
Yeah,
away.
that's been approved
So-
by Board of Health and Planning.
The planning board and the board of health have approved this,
Mm.
right, so.
yeah, it looks like, because maybe it's not as bad too, because I'm trying to picture up against that other house that's already there.
I think it looks worse on paper than it's gonna look in the field.
Well, it's just
so-
the amount of, I mean, again, that was all supposed to just be left as buffer. I mean, that house was going in, that was all in, they couldn't touch. And now it's a lawn and a driveway and a septic system.
And for
Four-bedroom
future,
house.
for future thinking with that kind of a mindset, there's a tool that a lot of towns use. I don't know if you guys are practiced for using that, but for example, let's say one of the conditions when you approve this was a certain amount of land conservation.
Right.
You can put a CR or other deed restrictions on other pieces of land if that is determined to be a
Right.
condition.
Right.
So that's something on other
No, and
properties.
we've used that. We've
that
used
you
that
may-
other places. We just didn't think we didn't think these people would be building anything, just because the way their yard was, they couldn't build anything
Sure.
there without talking to us,
Sure.
including that parcel right there. So we didn't need to put that conservation restriction on because they're blocked from it all as a citizen. But apparently you guys can just go ahead and build a house in the middle of it.
It sounds a little bit semantic, but what is the buffer zone buffering if it's all developed?
It's not, I mean, when do you get back there?
So, can you ask that question again? I want to make sure I
What
understand.
is the buffer zone effectively buffering if it is developed?
It's no longer a buffer zone.
Well,
It's buffering between the wetland and what?
so if you read in your own regulations, the language that's used, right, is that the buffer zones are there, the 25-foot in particular, to protect the ability for the wetland itself to perform its functions. Right? So it's not that the buffer zone per se has functions that it's protecting. It's protecting the functions of something else,
Because it's
and
related,
that is the
it's
wetland.
related to the wetland.
Right, so for example,
So they don't walk out right back door into the wetland.
In ways that
But what about-
100%
right.
development wouldn't be.
right, so what are, what are we protecting? The ability for this to have floodplain storage. Well, this project's not proposing floodplain storage. What about erosion and sediment control? Well, not only do we have erosion and sediment control barriers, but we also have high permeable soils on a gentle slope.
What about pesticides, herbicides,
Well,
stuff like that, people using their lawn, right?
And that can be.
We don't want that buffer zone should be stopping that from getting,
Right,
right? They
and so,
can't do that right
one,
to
you
the
can
wetlands.
condition that, and two,
Yeah.
the buffer zone there is that filter zone for that level of protection. So you can go through each of the interests of the wetlands and say, is that wetland, in this wetland, able to perform those functions
Yeah. it's a
with
simple-
this project? And the buffer, DEP doesn't even recognize that the buffer zone has the values that this commission recognizes that it does have. So that hence the 25-foot no disturb zone. Again, one thing, I would not have brought this to you as a professional if I didn't think it met your standards. If I didn't think it was something that you could and should approve because of the regulations that you have written, that you guys have.
Should, oh my goodness.
It,
Oh my goodness.
I have to advise my clients based on the rules that are put before us. I don't
Your
make,
clients want you to get as much bang for their buck
right,
as they can.
I don't
which
write
is-
the rules, I
is
just
fine,
follow them,
right,
you know what I
right.
mean, so.
It sounds like there are values that are hard to quantify. I mean, I think there was a value when we were there that we could see,
Sure.
the river, all the wetlands, all of it, there's a value there that is
After all,
violated, if I would say, with that house there.
Just a question.
Yet the law, what you're talking about, what you're saying is that you wouldn't have brought here if you couldn't pass the commission, if you didn't meet the regulations and the law, so.
Can we
Yeah.
dispose of it by making further action contingent on a site visit?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's, I think we should probably set up our site visit and then set you guys up to come back to the next meeting if that's possible.
And
Which is our standard anyways, regardless.
And do we have an understanding or two on the point about the bylaw and the delay of
No,
the public hearing? I mean, there's a reason, I mean. I
do. Look, well, here's the thing, we don't have an agent, so we're not the most qualified group.
I understand.
If you want to move it forward and you have legal resources to do so, I'm not gonna tell you not to. I would say we're just gonna proceed as if it was a regular one in front of us and that we hadn't missed any deadlines. If you want to do that, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
But don't say, look, we might do that, we might not, just so we're saying, we might sue you. Either do it or don't do it. We're gonna set a site visit, we gotta move on to the next
I
thing
think
on our
setting a site
agenda.
visit is right, and I just
Okay.
think it's better
So,
that if we
are
work
there-
together to get the best plan for everybody.
I think you're right, but I mean, if you keep bringing it up, it's perfectly fine, you're well within your rights, go ahead and do it, don't threaten it. Just go ahead and do it.
It's not a threat.
It kind of was. Is there a time that's good for people next week? Is there a time that's good for you? Like whatever works. Days, dates, any night?
Well, it's gonna be light enough though.
I was gonna say,
When is sunset?
it's like 4:30 work? Is that too early for people? It's 5 o'clock work, 5:30,
4:30 is good.
4:30?
4:35, is 4:30 all right? Can 4:30 work?
4:35.
They're still late at 4:30.
Yeah, can 4:30 work for you?
5:30, yeah.
Is there a good day? I should actually, I know that.
You don't have any good days, do you?
No, actually, next week isn't as bad as this week. And next week is the first Thursday of the month, so Rotary is
Not
the second
Tuesday,
in the
that's
morning.
the primary day.
Tuesday's the first, yeah, so maybe the second, March 2nd, would be next Wednesday, we can today. Does that work?
Yeah,
Does that work?
March 2nd at 4:30?
4:30?
Perfect.
in the afternoon.
In the after, yeah, not in the morning. I suppose.
And then to have the electronic files so I can at least look at them and hold them.
Yeah.
Could you
Oh,
stick the wow, please? The wow
Could-
yeah.
and
Could you,
the corner
could
of
you
the
send,
house.
um,
You know, the
an
corners of
email
the house, because
notification
this
of
is
the
an
time?
idea.
Yeah, we'll put some flags out there
Yeah.
for the house corners. The septic system is already staked,
Yeah.
and the well.
The wow.
And,
The
that's-
house location. House
And-
location,
and-
house location,
and-
the wow. And the wow.
who's the best person to email the digital things to?
Me. Yeah,
Do you want to give me your?
I do, yeah. Do you want me to write it down?
Sure, that'd be great. And then you can distribute it to the members.
That's it, yeah, now we will pass it around, we'll be all set.
Are you guys in the process of hunting down an agent? Is that the?
We are.
I think I saw an ad on the MACC website, right?
You did, yeah, yeah, so hopefully, if you know anybody, please tell me to apply.
All right. So I'll send you
All right.
the digital.
Yes, please do, I'll make sure we get that forward around to everybody, I'll send a meeting reminder too, for next week.
And then continue this to
We'll take a week.
what date?
Oh, yeah, March 22nd is our next one, is that fine? Tuesday, March 22nd?
Sure.
All right. I would like to make a motion that we continue the hearing for Paul Slade Lot 1 Century Mill Road, that we continue to our Tuesday, March 22nd meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
What time was?
At a time to be determined, if that's all right. If there's nothing else going on, we'll put you on first, if they don't have
Now, is
something
this your new meeting location generally, or?
else. No, this is because last week it snowed out,
Oh,
so our regular place was booked. But normally we're over in the Houghton building.
Right, right,
Where,
right.
that was the first time, right? Or were you downstairs?
Oh, we've been over
We were
the
Houghton
Houghton
building, yeah, that's right.
Good, thank you very much, have a good night.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Four North Road, certificate of compliance.
Do we have anything that involves,
No, yeah, we can actually go,
I'm actually
yeah.
on downstairs in like 13 minutes.
Yeah, no, come on down then. Are you here for
Century Mill.
Century Mill? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's perfect.
Back up if it's more.
No, do you want to stand back down to that end, just because they have the camera there? No, the other stuff we can get to afterwards, and you were on to 7:30, so
Alright.
if you can introduce yourself quick, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Fred Coon, project manager at Century Mill. Okay, there's a few things I want to go over with you, but I'm running really short on time. So,
Okay.
the first thing I'd like to go over is the wetland crossing on Road 8, in Phase 3, the undeveloped section,
Yeah.
where we're going to be putting a crossing in. Previously, you had allowed us access across there because it's solid ledge. We removed all the wetland material, put it in the wetland stockpile,
Yeah.
and we're able to travel across. We'd like to be able to move some equipment, not on a regular basis, but occasionally across that location. We can scrape everything back out after we recreated it last year. I believe you were at the site visit with Carol. And we'll remove it down the ledge, stockpile material, and when we're finished, at the end of the season, we can put it back. I just want some permission to do that because right now we have to truck everything from,
Yeah.
one side, truck it around to
Oh,
the other
around,
side,
yeah.
offload it, and
Yeah.
use of town resources and police.
Do we know, and I don't want to cut you off, yeah, I think, but you
Yeah.
just want to go point by point on that one. Do we know, did we have to vote on that last year, or was that just a verbal permission by Carol?
I was not here.
Okay, yeah, I know,
I
do
don't
you
know.
remember, Jim?
I think we ordered them to fill it back.
I know we ordered them to fill it back
Yep.
in, yeah. But as far as the crossing in the interim,
I think you should get it in writing, whether it's just something in writing, but it should always be never verbal.
okay, yeah.
Agreed.
So that said, is it possible to basically what you just asked, can you put that in a written request?
Absolutely.
Send it to the Bolton Concom, we'll check those emails. And I don't know, I'll read through it, maybe I'll forward it around, everybody can read through it, we can make a decision there, but, on the face of it right now, it seems like it's something we could approve, or it seems like I would be relatively comfortable approving that, knowing,
And
yeah, it's
previously,
for
we
the
had
season, and,
equipment traveling back and forth on a regular basis.
yeah,
We would like to start building the road at Century Mill Road, so we just need to move equipment there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if occasionally we need to
Yeah,
move
working
something
on it.
for repairs, move it across. It's not gonna be a daily conveyance.
Constant,
So,
Yeah, and then if we
That's-
still have the same end of the season procedures that it
put it
seems.
back, put up the barrier that you guys wanted, and put all the snags. and
Yeah,
back.
so if you could send that, my guess is we'll send it around, I don't think we'll have a problem with it, but
Okay.
can't guarantee.
The second thing I wanted to go over, well, I wanted to plant a seed with you guys for the bond for that phase, for phase 1.
Yep,
There are no wetlands in that phase at all. And I brought the copy for, I think, everybody. to discuss this tonight.
Phase one.
Okay, I was gonna say, this one I think was maybe,
Down by
Yeah,
Century
but
Mill
yeah,
Road.
just to start.
There's a copy for everybody of the approved bonds, and for that one, the initial bond, just to commence construction, is 34,000, as opposed to others where it's 150.
Okay.
Because there's no wetland, I just wanted to go over
Is
why we would
is
see.
phase one the part down by Century Mill Road?
By Century.
Yeah, cutting up off.
Yeah, there's
Right.
no
I
wetlands
get
in that.
confused between phase one and
But
episode
1
eight.
and 3, so that I just wanted to kind of have you guys maybe review for the next time you have a meeting. We could.
Yeah, start reading through this,
Um,
and if you take, you know, if you're out at Century Mill again, if you wanna start taking a look, you know, at that section, because I picture that you're right, as it comes up off, I can't see.
Yeah, and that's not actually where the road's gonna intersect, it's actually like 50 feet off.
Oh,
That's where the access is right
now, but yeah.
What I have here is a proposed drawing for a driveway for lots 25 and 26, which are on Old Stone Circle. And the current plan shows 2 driveways coming in off of lot 24, crossing all the way across and around. And we would like to put a driveway across this buffer zone, not to touch the subject tonight. But we already have an order of conditions for road work in that, and it's already been disturbed site area. And it's, you know, it's been planted with grass and everything, but it was part of the area we were able to landscape off the side of the road. We'd like to just discuss putting a driveway over there to make it more usable for the houses.
So eliminating this, bringing it.
Yeah, you'll still have the one driveway on lot 24.
Right,
that
but you
comes
won't
up,
have the barrel
but
there.
you won't have this huge driveway that cuts across 3 lots.
Do you know the
Just-
square footage of, yeah, or is it, obviously it doesn't record as much disturbance, but is this all clay cut or not clay cut?
Oh, this is the.
None of this
Yeah,
is
that's
in the
what's
buffer
really- yeah,
zone.
this is-
Buffer
it's like
zone
this is the old one
right
comes out.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
And
this
see,
is
like,
the
the-
only
the-
area
the
that's
loop
already
right
been
here.
disturbed. Once you cross that, it's on the lot and it's not in the
So
buffer
I
zone.
guess the idea was to avoid all of this, is my guess, when it was in.
From
use.
this-
That's all the septic system.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the septic systems and the reserve
Yeah, I was
systems.
wondering, oh, that's septic, all
Am I
right.
understanding this right then, Fred? You were coming
Banning
along
that.
the side of
Yeah,
this
the
area?
road's
and
here
now
and it
you're
would cut
coming
across
through? Is
all
this,
3 lots.
is this a bridge here?
Nope, that's just the grade of the lot. So
So there's a dip here?
a little bit, but it'll all be graded out. This dash line is your buffer zone.
Mm-hmm.
And in here, we already had an order of conditions for the road construction to
Mhm.
disturb it. And it obviously was because you have the crossing right here.
Yeah.
And it's all been seeded and planted with just grass. But we'd like to just either file some paperwork or whatever you guys require of us to make the driveway cut up there to make it
And that's,
more accessible.
that's basically all just the buffer zone right there, right, is what you're crossing right there?
That's it. And it's
Right,
already,
as opposed to,
No,
like,
not
before it
this.
came up here to avoid it, yeah.
This is just topography.
it came
this
up
is
here
up and
to
out of it.
avoid the septic system and there's a wall.
Yeah.
It's hard to see, but there's a wall right here, yeah, for the breakout.
Well, one of
the
the things I
septic
like
system.
about this compared to the way it was is, the way it was, there's like driveway and driveway.
That person doesn't know the yard. Essentially,
Yeah,
you
why,
take away that person's
the
yard.
town doesn't like to see masses of driveway lined up.
Right, and then a big swath of asphalt moving
Right.
through 3 lots, it's
That too.
unattractive.
That too, but, yeah, this is like.
How much is this area, is this, as far as trees, clear cutting, is it all clear cut, or is it?
Well, because the septic here,
Yeah,
most of this is clear cut in here.
but by eliminating this driveway, is that, because I know this was obviously clear cut.
You'll
This
still
will
be able to have a few trees, natural trees in here, but
Right.
we'll also do our normal landscape plantings that we
Mhm.
do for around the house, and then the street trees will also be, that we have to plant as well.
But by moving this, because this is obviously clear cut, this is clear cut because you have the grading anyway.
Yep.
So by moving this, you possibly can.
Most of this
save
is
some-
cleared because it was all ledge and it was removed. But this, it just aesthetically, along with whoever has to shovel the driveway, is going to make their life a lot easier. So,
Yeah, otherwise it looks like yours.
Yeah,
You got
yeah, that's
one
exactly what
driveway.
it looks like, oh, yeah.
This shape.
Crazy, yeah, that shape.
so, and those houses can be shifted a little bit to tweak the ends of the driveway, but essentially that's where we'd like to cross.
You- you might not know the answer to this one, because we should know the answer to this one. I'm just trying to think procedurally. Like, I'm thinking, on the face of it, it seems like it's not a bad idea. I might want to go out there and take a look, but
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think how we would approve that. Is that an RDA asking for, I mean, is that just an RDA on the existing lots? Is that opening up the NOI and making a change? You know what I mean?
I
Do
would
we
have
have to
to
make a
ask
change?
Our
Yeah.
attorney, Alan Shocker, who deals with our easements and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
and we,
but I-
and on our end, we could take a look too, but I'm wondering, like officially, for us to do that, I think we'd have to, or would we have to amend the order of conditions? Maybe not.
Is it
I honestly don't
The
know.
order of
I just-
conditions pertain to the road, not
Yeah,
the
not,
driveway.
not the actual driveway.
But because the area's already been disturbed, I don't know what the impact would be for you in that respect.
And we never had to approve the original driveway, right? That never came before us?
No,
Right, because it's all out.
because it's all out.
All right,
So that's not on the engineering plans that we had approved.
right, so,
So it doesn't require a revision to it.
right, so it would probably be a new
Yeah, it sounds.
NOI, right? That's exactly what it
So
would
you would
be.
need another order of
Yeah,
conditions.
I-
and I'd
yeah,
just come
well,
back,
yeah,
or is
and
it
it would-
something I just file?
I think it would be a new, it would be a new notice of intent because the intent is to disturb the wetlands. And sometimes we do it within,
We could have come up with a negative finding for it.
oh, for an RDA.
For an NOI, and then he asked for a request for a determination.
That's just an easier, quicker way to do it.
So that,
Yeah, but-
so that we wouldn't end up having to affect an order of condition. If we said, yeah, just change it.
That's true, because with an RDA, we'd do a negative, in theory, possibly, we could do a negative finding, but we wouldn't have to condition an RDA. In other words, if we said, yeah, this plan seems fine, and we kind of like it better than this plan,
But you can
and there's
always-
no major disturbance,
You can always condition a negative.
sure, yeah, with following conditions. That's probably the easiest, quickest way to
I
do
guess-
it, is,
I guess you need to mark off the location, exactly where you're planning on crossing, so.
Okay.
oh, yeah, and then we'd have to put
It's very easy to show you guys when you come up for your site visit or whatever you want to do.
the general
I mean,
area.
you're familiar with the site, Jim. You know, right before you get to the crossing, on the right-hand side where the crusher used to be up on the right, those are the two lots that we're talking
Oh, okay.
about. So instead of having two driveways in one yard,
Wink. Yeah.
traveling across three lots, it would just spread out, make it more aesthetically pleasing.
Here it seems to make sense, but I would think, and again, I could be wrong, but I think that's the way we need to go, is to
Actually, this one.
have somebody file an RDA, a request for determination.
Okay. So that's all I need to do?
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it, I think that's what we have to do in order
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
to, no,
I'm
thanks for
on
coming out, yeah.
1 minute
Enjoy
downstairs.
your next
so
meeting, yeah.
Have a
Good
good
luck,
day.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah. That's what the crusher
Two certificates of compliance on here. Jeff, did you ever have a chance to go out and look at either of these?
I actually went and looked at Meadow, which
Okay.
was the culvert replacement.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
Sean.
yes, I actually drove by this too.
There was this 12-inch culvert across a shared driveway that had been sort of filled with silt and crushed on one end, and they replaced it with an 18-inch. The driveway itself is not repaved. I had sent out some photos, I went out there, this is some silt and everything. Yep. For Norse was a certificate of compliance for work, for an existing scope of work that was never
Yeah,
Never replaced,
happened,
right?
and it expired, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so from a
Right.
process standpoint, I think they were just looking to close that one out. And I know where the site is, I walked up there just to see if there was any disturbances or heavy equipment, and there was none of that. So it's obviously hadn't started work there. Yep.
Yeah, which was what they were saying, yeah, they had need to done. All that said, I suppose we should go one at a time. Well, we talked Meadow Road, or, well, actually, we had Norse Road on there first. So for 4 Norse Road, they're looking for a certificate of compliance. Anybody have any strong feelings as to yes or no, based on what we saw?
Yeah, I mean, nothing has happened. Yeah, nothing has happened.
Just undisturbed, right?
Correct.
In which case, then does it make sense to then issue the order of conditions? Or issue the certificate of compliance, right, basically to close it out? Even though they didn't do anything that's on the order of conditions, which always seems odd to me. But I don't know.
They didn't violate anything
No, and I can understand they'd want to close out, they're gonna move the land or do whatever, or submit a new one. I just don't know.
Yeah, it seems like we should close it out, and if there's a reason to issue another, if they need another.
Yeah,
either. Can you void it?
well, that's what I was wondering, I guess you gotta close it. This is when you really need that conservation
Yeah.
agent, because this is a really good question. I mean, how do we
That's the word I'm looking for, vacate.
vacate it?
Because
Yeah.
there's no compliance, because the project was never,
It was never
Abandoned.
begun,
Consummate.
yeah.
yeah.
Annul, we can annul something that wasn't consummated.
So,
Well, if we don't know, maybe we should find out. There's
Well,
no urgency.
see, this
here.
is, this is what I was gonna say. Just that. There may be some urgency, because I hate to make them wait another month if they're trying to close this thing out or something like that. But it's worth me asking the question to Dawn or whoever to figure out what our move should be on this.
Oh, so we do one of those motions where we kind of agree to.
That's what I was, or is there a
do
way
something
to,
Pending a result.
or we can, I mean, well,
Empower you to act on,
did we ever vote on certificates of compliance in the past? Michelle had us voting on, issuing city OCs, but didn't Carol just issue them herself? Did we ever vote?
Oh, you vote on
You
You
did,
voted
that's
for it.
right, yeah, we just to close them out, yeah.
it. So we can issue it with condition that this conversation and clarification, which is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah, because my first thought was just, well, let's move it to the next meeting, you know, once we get a person and we can get these things answered. But I'd hate to jam them up if they're waiting on something, because it's a month.
So we issue
So
it
I'll-
as contingent on it being
Oh, yeah, maybe,
correct.
I mean, maybe,
can we just agree to empower Brian to find a way to vacate the thing, whatever is most appropriate?
yeah. I suppose, we could vote on,
Make it go away?
well, you know, in theory, right, could we not vote on that we are all in agreement that work hasn't begun, so the order of conditions should either be vacated or closed, whatever is appropriate, and that we should take that action as soon as we hear what it is? Maybe something like that?
Sounds good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Second,
All right, so make a motion that we agree that the order of conditions for 4 Norse Road should either be certified as complete and complied or vacated. And that we move to do that as soon as we find out what the best course of action is.
Whether it's
Makes sense.
contact us, whether it's from Dawn or Colin, you can.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
if we can
Up to
decide, we
you.
can always start on the 2nd of March.
Yeah, maybe we maybe try to do a quick one.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So, let me figure that out tomorrow. Maybe I'll do one big good email with all the site visits and what we found out. Because it might be that, just that we do issue a certificate of compliance and that's it. So 50 Meadow Road, the culvert.
I'm gonna abstain from this because I wasn't here during any of this conversation.
I drove by, it seemed that the water wasn't going over the road as it had in the past. Because I do remember doing it on that pass. From the window, it looked okay. I did not take a deep in-depth look and I did not have like our full order with me. Did you have thoughts? I mean, you kind of gave your thoughts on it too. Does anybody have strong thoughts as to whether we should issue the certificate of compliance or not?
I don't have strong.
Yeah, I'm not taking the word of Ducharme and Dillis, but they did issue a letter saying that the work has been completed.
Right.
And I went out and took some photos and there's
Tell me
definitely,
from your photos that.
it is, but there is a new culvert installed there. Now, it's not paved, the driveway is not paved.
Okay.
All right, now whether that is an issue or not, that's part of the scope of work. Or not, it was truly the culvert replacement. Obviously, you're not gonna pave a driveway.
I'm not put the culvert in
Right,
first.
when it's covered with snow and ice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's right, they really can't now.
So that would be
Said,
my only catch. Would be,
Well,
you know,
I-
does the scope of work include paving, repaving the
and
driveway?
reading through the full,
Right.
but I guess my leaning would be, and again, I hate to do it to him, is to continue to the next meeting to
Mhm.
see if we get an H&N, they can actually go out there with the order of conditions and do a little check off.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough. And you saw the photos that I took. I mean, everything was under a foot of snow,
Yeah.
right? So even standing there, it was not to say it was a question, but it wasn't clear as day.
Oh.
No.
I'd be tempted then to try to continue it to our next meeting. I could talk to Linda too, I don't know how crazy people's schedules are, but I think we could throw together a fast meeting. You know what I mean, as long as we have so many days' notice and the full thing, that if this is really a big problem for somebody, if we said, all right, we'll throw together an impromptu meeting next week, and I'll go out with a checklist, and, you know, we'll do our best, and we'll go ahead and clear it for them. But,
Well, actually, if we do that one issue as part of the March 2nd.
yeah, March 22nd.
No,
Oh, I
March
see what you're
2nd.
saying, will we get together for the site visit?
Visit.
Yeah, we probably could.
Yeah.
Let me find out tomorrow.
You'd have to post it that we're meeting.
Yep, where and when.
Yeah.
We're meeting at Century Mill Road. We could do it,
Well,
it's been done before.
did it at town hall
Yeah,
before.
we've done it before. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe I'll see if I can get some answers from Linda and or Dawn tomorrow. And if we have to put something together quick for next week, I'll talk to her and see if we can get it posted. Just do that at the site visit.
How much advance notice do they need to have?
I forget how many today. Yeah, it's,
So we- I mean,
well,
that's
nah,
not-
it's
that's
like, how many
It's
days?
gotta be
It's 10
published.
days, like 10 days, yeah.
And there's a lead time to do that.
Yeah, okay.
It
Well,
has to be
maybe
published so many
December.
days
I don't know.
before.
And then there's a winter schedule for paper,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fighting against that, there's a full.
All right.
There's
So-
a full.
I guess I would make the motion then that we continue the discussion of certificate of compliance for 50 Meadow Road until our next scheduled meeting, currently March 22nd of 2016. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And I'll get out there and take some snowstorm.
What I need to do is I need to come by here, he's here, grab the order of conditions.
Oh,
And
March,
go out and checklist it off, because there's ones, you said like, I remember the double flow, I remember where they were going from the 2 pipes to the one.
Sidewalk, yeah.
Remember where the water went over the road. Oh, wait, did we say anything about this area around here? I don't know. That's it. I think that's all of our regular stuff for tonight. As far as the stuff down the bottom, I don't think we're just, unless we want to discuss the tripartite agreements for both subdivision work. I don't even know what that is exactly. I'm not sure that I got that from Linda.
So, Lake Rock and Rouge?
The town contractor and commission. I'll have to follow up with Linda.
That's truck.
Hey, before I forget
Sure.
this, the online subscription to Mac
Yes.
expires like next week. We should renew.
We probably should.
And the conference is coming up.
I think it's,
We still have education budget too.
Yeah.
I gotta see if the dates work again.
Is it before July 1st?
Yes,
or no, maybe,
March, first weekend of March.
I'm not sure.
There is something I'd like to bring up.
Please.
So the development that's going on Sugar Road.
Yes.
So I don't know how it was done before, Carol or somebody had oversight the way that, you know, looking for somebody in the commission, they goes to Century Mill, and keeps an eye on what's going on, or getting reports, you know, having somebody come to the commission and report what's happening. I drive by the road every day, and I'm just seeing the changes and thinking, okay, the commission approved this work, yet there's no contact for what's happening there. And so I don't know how we establish that.
Now, I know we had, for a while, we haven't had the regular weekly meetings at Century Mill, but they were run by Erica at the planning board. Is she still active?
She is.
I saw a picture of her in the paper, she looked like her shaking.
No, she, in fact, I saw her about 20 minutes ago right there. She's very active.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I'm wondering when we had our agent, when we had our Carol, because I know she'd stop in on different sites along, during the week, she'd be stopping and check this, a lot of like, just some compliance.
Big
I would
project.
assume she'd be the person that would do like the random stop in just to make sure, you know, erosion control barriers are in place. Or
Right, in Century Mill, they were large, well-defined areas of particular purpose, and they were boundaries that you had to check to make sure that they were cutting down the trees in the city.
Right.
Do we have that?
Well, they should have been notifying, like when the erosion control was in, they should have notified somebody
And they did.
that, so someone could
And
go
they
out
did.
and
Sure.
inspect it.
Yeah, and we did. In fact,
Did
Michelle
you?
and I went out and walked it.
Oh.
Yep.
So you
So
did
you're
inspect
absolutely
that.
right. Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of those things usually will fall on the agent.
Which we don't have.
So that will be
Fascinating.
hopefully, right.
And
okay,
if
so
we
that
interview them, we
person-
can talk to them about how comfortable they are on, you know, random site visits and things like that.
We need to make sure we get that unless.
That's a good way to ask too, yeah. The two properties, the Damon properties, I'll go tomorrow night, if anybody else wants to stop in. Great, if not, that's fine. Paul, did you have copies of those maps, Jeff, earlier? The Gross Wickham's, I can get them out of the office, I wasn't sure if you would pull them.
Yeah, let me see if I have the digital copies of those parcel maps. Brian, if I do, I'll email them to you.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Please do, because I want to look through. I looked quickly before and I didn't see her file in them.
Yeah, it's off.
But it wasn't like an NOI or anything, it was like, oh wait, this is different.
That's right. It's off of Whitcomb.
Yeah.
It was just over 13 acres,
Yeah.
out near 495.
And it connects too, right? It connected in, if I'm remembering this, doesn't it connect on the back end of something? I thought it connected, which is one of the reasons why we were,
Does it connect to, is it right on the Harvard line? That's not the place. For site
I
visit.
thought there was
Oh,
some
might be.
potential of connecting with some other trails.
Yeah.
Harvard, but,
I really have to,
Yeah.
because they might not want to accept it, I'm not sure what their thinking is. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember looking at it and thought to myself, it looked fairly isolated,
Yeah,
given its location. But let me see if I have the plan, I'll send it to you.
maybe I'll pop it here too, for the meeting too, and pop some of the SJS stuff.
All right, I have, Linda had sent me an email, someone wants to tap trees for maple sugaring.
Mm.
With any thoughts on maple sugaring on conservation land?
So Jeff Flory and I had a quick discussion on this ahead of time. Linda
Only
specifically
if they
asked me to
sell it
bring
at
it up.
Bolton Spring
There
Farm.
we go.
Well, yeah, exactly, you gotta sell your own product, be a consignment.
I thought it would be something handled like campfires and camping, written permission specific to a person, right? For a certain property, certain number of taps,
Certain timeline.
certain timeline,
what
right?
kind of scale of operation?
That's a
we're talking
question.
about?
How many
That's-
taps? Yep.
That's kind of what, yeah, Jeff was thinking about, which made a lot of sense.
Is it possible to hurt the trees if you don't do it right? Do they know what they're doing?
That would be a question. You can't tap a tree that's not at least 10 inches in diameter. You can't put 2 taps in a tree that's not at least 20 inches in diameter. So there are standards associated with tapping.
So you know that, do they don't?
I guess I wouldn't want to see a bunch of tubes snaking all over the woods either, that,
Yeah.
Well, it's probably like,
trails.
I would assume it's probably when you go up, Long Hill Road. I mean, they've been tapping those trees for as long as I can remember.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and that hit the bags a lot of
The
times,
bags.
which is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a part of us figuring out what they were looking for.
Guess I
I'm
need to
not
write a
sure we want to
proposal.
be in the business of regulating that kind of activity either.
So you do one person, and then the next request comes in, and
So yeah, we kind of went over some of that too, where like, it's hard, somebody says, well, I want to do some forestry there, I want to clear out some of the dead wood, or I want to trap
that's what I was
squirrels.
just thinking about.
That's difficult, but on the other hand, we're saying, this is a sustainable process, and it's a good use of public land, like, somebody wants to use the town's public land in a way that's,
This
it's
is maybe what we're
sustainable and
considering.
productive, like, this is a good use of public land, or is it? And I think a lot of what we came back to was saying, it's one of those things where, I don't know that we're completely opposed to it, but it would really need to be said, how many trees, what standards you're meeting.
It doesn't work, you say no next year. No, it
That's-
wasn't a good process, it just, you left it messy, you did this, whatever, and it's just,
The same thing as bringing dogs up to, one of the
Mhm.
Yeah.
areas of open space.
Right.
As long as they don't do it wrong, then we don't worry about
It's
it.
not like they're taking a chainsaw to it, just tapping it with.
Mhm. Is it for private use? Is it
That was
for
another
sale?
question, was absolutely. I think the easy answer here is, to say if we had an administrator in place that could work with you to make sure that this was done in a responsible way, then it would be something that we could prove. But we don't have someone in place to manage tree
Yeah.
tapping at this point, or even check in on tree tapping at this point. So, not to say the easy answer is no, or the right answer is no, but I do think it's something that needs some oversight.
You need a proposal.
Sure.
Is there any education around it? That'd be a good thing.
What's
Yes,
what's the
that
Yeah.
does
what's the
Yeah.
We don't
timeframe? Is
even know
it
where he wants to do it.
Yeah.
Is it all
March, April.
conservation land?
freezing nights and warm,
That's
above
exactly
freezing days?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep.
Geez, that could be last week. I had my top down once in January and once in February.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. If it wasn't gonna rain tomorrow, I might do it tomorrow, it's like the 50s again, mid-50s.
All right, I'll put something together.
Okay.
For limit, just to say, can we get a proposal of property, how many taps, what's the use? With the stipulation that we're currently without an administrator, and it's gonna be difficult for us to sort of oversee this
Yeah,
process.
we just don't want to automatically approve something that's gonna turn out to be a major town industry here.
Agreed.
Without knowing.
Agreed. All right, well, thank you.
And what would people from the town want us to do? And
Yeah.
your point of people walking through and there's some people that think that's really great, we're using resources and
Some
other
people love it,
people
some
be
people
like,
like it.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing I've ever seen, yeah.
I want to avoid the point of view that says, those are those are for conservation, you can't go near them. That's not what it's for.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's sustainable, but
Usage.
it would be
Town.
better when we have an agent in place. Yeah, it would be better when we have an agent in place. And they might have some thoughts on it too, they might have seen it in other places. I'm sure other towns do it, other areas do it, maybe we can find a good program. And by we, I mean like an agent or a conservation administrator, maybe. We do have one last thing this evening, hopefully, a presentation from the Trail Committee.
Okay.
Wait a second.
The hunting.
Oh, the hunting. I'm sorry.
Let's look at that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to picture this one. Did we get something on this? God, I read right by that today. In 500 feet of town land, so I'm wondering if really got. Trying to think what prompted this.
There was, maybe Michelle mentioned that somebody was hunting and some bullets went through someone's private property, and they may have spoken to Michelle, and that's kind of where this came from. I think that's what I remember. I don't know if anything else.
The private property? How would
Yeah,
that
somebody was,
relevant?
Or, yeah, hiking trails maybe?
Well, they were really close to someone's private property. There was some hunting happening and some danger happened.
It's a 500-foot rule is for
Houses.
houses, yeah,
And
so.
Streets or whatever. We had, actually, I looked it up tonight, it was back in like 2010 or something on that nature. One of the comments coming back from like the police is that it was actually, there was some hunting on private property and they had to chase the deer onto conservation land because they had shot it. And
Right.
there was some people concerned because they saw hunters walking through with guns, but they were, trying to get the deer. One of the subjects was, we don't have a dawn to dusk ruling on the conservation land. Police can't really regulate a lot of what goes on, even though you're supposed to have permission for landowners.
Right, right.
But that was one of the things about them being on conservation land.
What's the dawn to dusk mean?
As far as police being able to enforce a lot of things, I guess it was.
Is it
This
supposed
This
to
is
be
just,
allowed
this
or
was just
not?
another subject that we have with deer being hunted in town, hunters going on conservation land.
Is it supposed to be allowed or not?
No, no.
No,
Oh,
no,
no,
can't
it's
place
not.
on conservation.
But this is within 500 feet, right? This
Yeah.
is,
I did get a piece of what was happening there, just, secondhand, and it sounded like, this was a particular case where Michelle was in discussions with, someone from out of town,
Maybe.
okay? Does it sound familiar?
Mhm.
And the area in question was a very narrow sort of alley of private land. Does it sound familiar? That shared a border with a piece of conservation land. And it was discussion around whether he could even be that close to conservation land. And Laura, to your point, if you shoot a deer and it runs into conservation
You
land,
have the right.
does he have the right to track it?
Yeah, which you do, I would assume. You shot an animal, you can get it.
Yeah, you don't want to run in there and die.
Common courtesy would be contact the landowner, but we don't know anything from the landowner.
True.
I don't know, that's a tough one, and is that really,
But there's no buffer. There's no 500-foot, like if you were to say this is where Bower Springs is, and the property line of Bower Springs, 500 feet, there's no hunting in that, there's no buffer between a private landowner's area for hunting and the conservation land, right? There's no buffer. You can be right on the line, or you
It's
can
too
be
bad
over
the
the line.
bullets don't know how to stop.
Well,
yeah.
so
Which
no
is a
hunting
good
within
reason for
500
us.
feet of town-owned land, that's not a thing. But to Karen's point, you can't discharge a firearm within 500 feet of residence or dwelling.
Right. I mean, we do have state land where you can hunt in flats, right?
Yes, and Delaney.
Yeah, so, but I don't think you'd ever be within 500 feet of any conservation land. Like if you were on the edge of Delaney, what are you close to? Bond is probably the closest
Yeah.
thing.
You know,
I don't know any other place in town. Is there
Yeah.
any other place in town?
well, you
that's
can
gonna
hunt
be
on
relevant?
private land, and that's the
right,
issue.
right,
is
that's
he
the
had-
lot
your
on
backyard.
private
He
land.
had
Well,
permission to hunt on private land.
people get permission from homeowners of large tracts of land, so they'll go
Yeah.
back there. A lot of those tracts of land are about conservation land, so
It
where's
should become like a bylaw, like,
Well, that
this
is-
isn't really us just,
and is it town-owned land as in conservation land, or is it all town-owned land,
Seems to me that
On
the
something
fact
like
that
this.
it's conservation as opposed to any other kind of town-owned land is rather immaterial, but it's a town issue. Not a
yeah, it
conservation.
doesn't seem like it's.
It would seem like it would almost be
us.
like a town,
Yeah.
Right.
You're within 500 feet of town-owned land.
Why should the decision be different between some other kind of town land and conservation land?
There is no bylaw
But it's
against
a-
that.
it's a,
There is no bylaw against that. There's no regulations when you dump.
Right. So I get,
boy, yeah.
It seems like we should have somebody who knows the issues.
it's not a
Better than-
conservation issue.
Yeah.
Don.
Yeah, it's a, because it's outside the conservation land, right? It's a
Yes.
buffer zone to the
This is all
conservation
outside
land.
of conservation and the entire
Right.
discussion.
Is there any, do we have any enforcement or oversight?
I mean, you know, in theory, we can make wetland protection bylaw, as opposed to would be a protection bylaw, wetland protection bylaw.
Unless it's going to adversely affect the wetland in the conservation.
Right.
But should this get rolled over, I mean, is there an issue or a loophole that some other town agency should be dealing with, that we pass this information on because a citizen made a complaint and it came to us, this is the wrong agency, therefore there's
Right.
another agency, and we shouldn't just drop it here?
Is that something Pam or Linda would deal with, or Doug?
I mean, you know, for us, in theory, it's, no, you can't hunt on conservation land, right? We don't allow it. Once you get outside the conservation land, you know, that's a question, can we legislate that and say, well, you know, we're protecting this land, so, you know, you're building a buffer zone to conservation land, and I don't know that we can legally do that. Whether we want to or not, I don't know if we have any jurisdiction, I guess is what I'm saying.
Make sure
Like,
the
once you
boat-
get outside our lawn,
Water.
So
Wait,
maybe
like, we
should
can't
go
make any
beyond
laws.
that.
Like,
Maybe we
Yeah.
should push this to
I
something,
think-
say
Yeah.
like, especially since we don't have our own advocate.
Right. And I think it would be that advocate, like a conservation agent, working with Don, or working with the
Right,
other county
right.
agencies, to figure out, all right, who owns this,
Right.
and
So
is
we
it a
don't
big
have this
issue?
maybe-
Or is it even something to own?
Yeah, it's not really, I don't think it's anything we can really do much with, other than that, you know, understand the problem, and talk to the new agent when they come in, and
Keep the
Yeah, maybe
bullets out of the
someone-
water,
yeah.
you know.
But
shoot
before then-
away from the conservation land.
But like right now, we could
Read it.
just send an email to Don and just say, we don't think we have
Jurisdiction here, yeah, but
but
apparently
we want you to
this
be
is
aware of it.
an issue,
and
I don't see why not, yeah.
just like, that way it's not dropped, but,
No, and I don't wanna drop it, I just don't know that we can,
yeah. no,
It's
I
not
don't think it's really
us.
in our scope.
Send it back to the lower court.
That sounds like a, that's the big one.
The second conservation commission is the high court.
Depends on the day.
Goes that way, but-
Yes.
That's what, sorry. Okay, that's it. Now I think we have something from the trail committee.
Okay, all right. We have a quick presentation, the promise was made after, we made the presentation to the Conservation Trust, who typically are the holders of map data for trails in town historically. So we went in, gave them a presentation of the project, and I'd also agreed to come to the Conservation Commission, give the same presentation, which is what this is. And I want to, if anyone doesn't know Greg, this is Greg Matty from the Trail Committee. He's been fantastic, big help. This is not a project that I've done all by myself. It's been a group and a team effort. So, real quick, the goal for the project was to update all of the maps for the hiking trails in town to something that was digital and something that was editable, something that could be posted to a town website, something you could grab on your smartphone and take out into the woods with you. Something that would be, property specific. So it would have things in the conservation area like streams and where the walls were, where the items of interest were. And in order to get all that information, we used, GPS tracking applications to create routes through the woods and waypoints in the woods to identify the location of these things. So, we wanted them to be user-friendly, we wanted them to be printer-friendly, so that you could grab them off the website and print in color or print in black and white, and grab them on your cell phone. But part of the big reason to go digital is you're able to edit it. So instead of having a map on paper or a map in a book, and you change a trail here or close a trail there, beavers build a dam in a section and the trail moves 10 feet, you have no flexibility to amend your map. So that was one of the big driving factors. And quite a few towns actually outsource this activity, and this has been a completely self-developed project for free. So before we started to develop the actual format of the map, we took a hard look at what other towns did, right? Figured out the things that we liked, things that we didn't like, and really there was a common theme between what towns were doing, right? The maps looked a certain way, right? Things were a certain color here, a certain color there, format, file type, right? So we're not reinventing the wheel, but we did look at what a lot of other towns around us do. And we sort of based our design on that. So what I have is, if you're familiar or not, just a couple of examples from other towns. Like this is what Carlisle does for their trail maps, and you can see it has a white background, it's high contrast. The green areas in the conservation, water areas are blue, and the trails are, you know, different line types and different colors depending on the sections. They have a key, they have a legend, there's a map bar for scale, and you know, easy to read, easy to understand. You know, as far as the Carlisle maps, they're excellent. You know, when we looked at something like this, you know, we felt like hikers would be interested in topography, which they don't provide, something we thought was important. And there's no clear place on this map as to where to park, which is something that else is important. This is Concord solution. Again, you can see common theme, you know, white background, high contrast. The conservation areas are in green. You have your hiking trails that are in different colors and different line types. You know, these are good maps, good legend. They do theirs in landscape rather than portrait, which is not ideal for mobile, and it's not ideal for print, especially if you're going to do a booklet. But great maps. This is what Groton looks like. You know, not as high tech as some of the other towns. Everything's handled with notes. I know it's hard to make out, but
They've got the topo on there,
they do have the topo, no question about it. Conservation area in green, right? Fairly easy to read. You know, some notes at the bottom, and I can put my finger here to say, you know, this says, you know, stream crossing, and it's all handled by notations. There's no symbols in the map, which is a little different than the way everyone else does it. This is Lincoln.
Those
Lincoln
kids,
has-
they had parking on that.
yeah, they did. They did. It was flagged as parking, but and it was. This is real quick Lincoln's map. Lincoln has fantastic maps, lots of information. At times, the information is a little overwhelming. You know, if you look at this quick, you sort of have to study it to see where the trails are, differentiate between the trails and the road. You know, they show a big portion of Waltham, which is not necessarily specific to the hiking trails for this particular map, but it does take up a big area of the map. You know, so we tried to focus on, you know, what is the area of interest and how does it pertain to our piece of property, and how do we get that centered and focused in our map content. And this is what Mashpee does. You know, they put out a nice book, a lot of good information. Again, it's in landscape. You know, we felt like the map content was too small compared to the total print area. Again, good narrative, but as far as a usable map to take out into the field with you,
Very dense.
it's dense. Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at a good cross-section of what different towns do, and you have them all in front of you, it becomes easier to sort of pick and choose, right? What you like, what you don't like, right? What jumps out at you, so that you can build your own map. So let's take a look at how we built the Bolton Trail maps. So our first step was to develop a map template, which is a frame, right, where you have all of your information located in the same place, regardless of what property that you're in. And that does a couple of things. It makes revisions for us very easy, where everything is in the same spot. So for instance, the Conservation Trust remade their logo specific for these maps, so it's all within a circle, right? We held space for them across 13 maps, but this was actually completed at a later date. So to take that image and drop it into 13 different maps, because it's in the same position, becomes a very quick editing process, right? The other thing is, people know where to look for information. And when you move the legend around a map, you know, you have to orient yourself to the map. And doing it this way, people know where to look for the information, right?
This
Because
is
it's a
basic
standard.
user interface.
Right, because it's a standard thing. You want to know where the key is, you can see the keys on the lower right, you want to know what the primary trail is, it's on the left. And the uniformity sort of builds a brand, so that you look at it and you say, I know that this is a Bolton map right off the bat, right, I'm familiar with it, because they all look the same, at least the frame does, the template does. So the first step in map building, this is layers. So this is, you know, it's like a deck of cards, and we're stacking layers on top of each other that we're using to reference each other, right? So this is your initial GPS track that you would capture if you're in the woods. And you can see, you know, it's a trail, ends up being a route, and there's points on that route that are called waypoints. And when you're walking through the woods, you can stop and create a waypoint for a stone wall crossing, or stop for an intersection, or stop for an item of interest like a big rock, or a feature, like a split rock, or a plaque like on Phillips. So that when we build the map, we can reference these waypoints and locate these items exactly where they fall on the property. So on top of this GPS trail, we actually create the trail that you see in the map. And if you can make out the red dots that just showed up here. And by actually tracing right on top of the GPS track, what that allows us to do is delineate between different trail types. So we have a primary trail in red. You can see a few X's here where trails exist, but they're for private. So we can say, we know that the trail is here, it exists, but please don't use it because it's not on conservation land. And we can also delineate secondary trails. So shorter routes or loops that are off the main trail and then merge back onto the main. The other thing this was allowed us to do is change the line type and the line weight of the actual trail, so that when you get to print, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, you can drive the trail line type darker, so it sits on top of all the other information, almost like construction documents, right? So when you look at the map, the thing that comes out at you the most is the trail, and it's not lost against all the rest of the background information. The next layer in this deck is actually bringing the GIS map from town and bring that right in behind the GPS track and the trail. And that shows us that we are within conservation land, and it shows us you know, that our GPS track is fairly accurate. And it ends up being a great check and balance for times when we need to reference other plans like easement plans, right? When a trail goes off on conservation land or between conservation parcels. So I'll show you just an example, and this is Welsh. And if anyone's familiar with the Philbin Salmon Trail, that's a very long, very thin easement that goes from Welsh Pond Conservation Land up to West Berlin Road. So what you're seeing here is the actual easement plan that we've imported and embedded and rotated so that it fits, and I've highlighted it in red just to stand it out. So we can use the GIS plan and the parcel plan and then bring in the easement plan and get them to marry up exactly, and then see where the GPS track falls, and then in the map, draw the easement plan and say, this is private property or it's an easement, please stay on the trail here. So the next step in the map build process, again with the GIS parcel, is we actually draw the conservation shape of the parcel physically in the map. And that's what you see here. So the GIS map has been pushed to the back, and now you have just the area of that conservation property visible. And then we would add, you know, specific things like stone walls, you know, what areas might be woodland, what areas might be wetland. You can see some camera icons. We've actually gone out and taken photos from specific areas on the property and providing those as, you know, points of reference and wayfinding. And other things like where the parking is, and there's a town line between Bolton and Stowe. This is the point where all of that map-specific information comes in.
Oh, and there's a property location map of the one, right?
Everyone has a key, so you know where in town the property is located. Yep. And then the final step to the map building is the base plan comes in. And the base plan has the roads, it has the topography in it. It has some hill shading, which is another way to figure out topography. And that's a quick look at the process. Every map is 3 pages. This is what the second page looks like. So you have 6 camera positions with actual photos from the property. So if, you know, someone's not familiar with the property, they know what maybe to expect, or maybe a reason why they would like to go there. And again, if they're not familiar with the property when they get to that point, it's a good check and balance. It's like a touchstone, right? I was looking for this and I found it, now I can continue, type of thing. You know, this map in the lower left-hand corner just has, you know, what our common markers look like. You know, so when you're in the woods, what you should look for to know that you're on the route. And page 3 is the same for every property, minus Delaney and minus the flats, because those are state-owned properties. But this is our, you know, just rules and regulations, right? And we've created sections here of, you know, what the different organizations in town do. So we have, you know, what's the role of the Conservation Trust? You know, what's the role of the Conservation Commission? What's the role of the Trail Committee? You know, providing some contact information as well. So I have all the property maps, and they're in color, so that you can see what they look like in color. And behind the first page is what they look like in black and white. Okay, so it's just, I feel like most people will probably print in black and white. Right?
Yeah.
If they don't have a guide.
Yeah, yeah,
It is
exactly.
60/20, but,
Well, because when you go on, like, it's right behind your house, it's like, oh, this is there, but, yeah.
right, so you probably,
10 years ago, I would have said, yeah, but almost everybody does an inch.
this is true, but I put both in here just to show that, again, the line weight is such an important function of this. And there's a lot of information here, but part and parcel is the trail.
You, quirky,
Yeah, the QR
QR,
code,
yeah.
we're experimenting with QR codes. Right now,
That's
this is active for the trail index webpage on the Conservation Commission's website. But all
trust.
on Conservation, yeah, the Conservation Commission on the town website has a trail index page. Yep. That's where that one is pointing now. So if you want to just, you know, pick a property, take a look. All 13 properties are actually completed. So whatever your favorite is, or if there's specific information that you're looking for, you know, the other thing that I can offer is if you want to take a look at my cell phone as to what, you know, the maps look like, if you were to grab the file and take it in the woods with you, you can do that as well.
Is that a 6? That's the same size as my Samsung,
Mhm.
my 5-year-old.
Mhm.
That's not bad.
So it's a beautiful Saturday morning, you want to go for a walk, what do? You pull out your phone, you go to Town of Bolton, download, or how do you expect people, how do people use it?
Okay.
So it's a beautiful morning.
Yep, I think it's going to be in phases. And,
Okay.
you know, the first phase of this would be, you know, you have these are PDF files, and they can go to a website and grab the file and either bring it down on their desktop and print, and take the print with them, or they can download it on their mobile device and take their mobile device with them. That would be the first phase. You know, second phase would be, you know, replacing the guidebook.
Okay. And the code,
QR code at the trailhead would be nice on your phone.
And that's a possibility. That's a possibility.
is that a lot of work?
It could. When we get a handle on how these are posted to the web, we could create a QR code for each individual map, so that you could post a QR code at the trailhead, scan it, and it would bring you right to this map, rather than just a web page with all the maps. Right. Yeah, that is a possibility.
These are great, beautiful.
Really nice
job.
job.
Very nice,
They
beautiful.
really are.
So, for a process, and I'll use Delaney because that was the last one, Greg, right, that we did. And it's a complicated property only because, you know, most of it is in Harvard, some of it's in Stowe, some of it's in Bolton. Stowe doesn't have GIS maps, so we were actually pulling in Stowe's PDF files to create the map for this. But, you know, Greg went out, walked the entire property, and then he's able to email in his GPX file, which is the GPS with the waypoints, right? We sit down, take a quick look at what the map looks like, and then he takes some photos, right? Greg and I sit down, I draft the map, send it to him, he's like, well, this is his map, Delaney is one that he has 80% of the input on. You know, and determine what the secondary trails are, what the primary trails are, you know, where the areas, you know, photos are, and there are, Delaney's has some pretty photos. Greg took all those.
This is great.
No.
Great job, guys.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And all the other towns around us guys have digital maps of their conservation property. I mean, it's a pretty standard thing. You know, it's
Started looking at it more and more. When we started this project, I started kicking around saying, these are fantastic. This is,
yeah, we
you
feel
took
like
the
we-
best of the,
Yeah, wait to get out there.
yeah, it really incorporates a lot of, and like most of the good things that people have been doing have all been pulled in.
Is there outreach in terms of telling the town of all this amazing work between the trail committee and the trust and newspaper article?
Yeah.
I think
Party.
Yeah.
I had an article in the
Celebrations.
Times, the Independent.
we need to figure out the best way to communicate
Yeah,
when these, and they're not currently available, they're not currently posted anywhere. So once they are, we'll need to figure out the best way to communicate that. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think what our next steps going forward to get it done. But I know you've been working a lot with the Conservation Trust and talking with them. You guys do a ton of work with the Trail Committee, but what are our next steps to move it forward that we as a commission can do? It doesn't need to be answered
No,
now.
no,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. I think-
Yeah, no,
I think-
I mean, I think,
Yeah, the commission's website, if you've noticed, I mean, the town of Bolton Trails map is in the top left-hand corner of all these files. And I think the intent is to bring the commission's website, especially where the maps are hosted, Brian,
Yeah.
up to speed. Right, that webpage hasn't been updated in a very long time. And in order for it to house all of this information successfully and user-friendly, it's going to need some rework. So whatever resources can be put against creating an environment where we can get all this content posted is one of our big next steps.
Do you know who the people are going to maintain
Linda feels like she can do a fair amount of the work.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next step is to get hold of somebody at the Independent. Put a picture of one of these things in the link.
I was gonna say, once we get it, once everything's up and going, well, I'm sure we will do everything we can to get the word out there too.
Yes.
Even a bulk mailing, where the information was there for people to.
Does the
Yes.
Conservation
I think
Commission,
the information would be something I would think people would hold on to go, wow, look at this. Once they check it out, they're gonna go to it.
I think so.
does,
Yep.
I think it sounds like you could do like a launch party, like a marketing campaign to, have your date, have a newspaper, here's the date, actually have a walk, take some people through
Oh,
these,
yeah,
I
and
agree.
have like,
Yep.
Little
big
celebration,
party,
yeah.
launch party.
have a table at the Bolton Fair?
Table,
I brought you guys these.
oh,
You
nice.
can put them on your backpack,
I will put them on my back.
put them on your fridge,
Love it.
With
I
a
love
teenager?
presents.
show them around town, get
Oh,
people
very
excited.
nice. These are great.
These are awesome.
They go with my outfits.
So that could be, Liz, that could be part of the
Yeah.
marketing around,
Yeah, handing those out at the library.
getting people interested in visiting these properties, because the more people that go through, the easier it is to maintain.
Mhm.
Right, the more information we get back, the more the trails are being used, the easier they are to clear, it's good for everybody to go out and use the properties.
Yeah.
Did the trust pay for this? Did you pay for it? Thank you.
No, it's amazing work. Yeah,
This
it's
is more
amazing.
useful work done in this direction than I've seen since I've been on the commission. Sir?
And all the things I read about why people live in this town, one is, the beauty of the town, and this will get people out. I mean, there are people who don't go out because, I don't know, they're afraid of deer or ticks or all sorts of things. I mean, people come here because it's beautiful, they love the green, but then they never go out. And
They don't know
so,
where to start, yeah.
well, part of it is that you don't know where to start,
Yeah,
right?
what's the good trail, Railroad Park, and it's
Right.
all laid out right here.
And
Yeah.
having this be very visible would be a great way to get people to get out
I
there, take
agree,
ownership.
explore.
Right. It's a good way for us to get a handle on stuff we've managed too.
Like, these are the properties we manage,
Yeah.
half of them I couldn't even locate on a map, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we're hoping too, as part of communicating these packages out, and the reason that it is so many pages is, you know, it does a couple of things. It does reinforce, you know, what the expectation is as far as etiquette in the woods, right? But we're also providing, you know, contact information. And we've created an email specifically for the Bolton Trails Committee, so that if someone is in a property and they see a need, or they want to volunteer and get involved, they have a way to communicate and really reach out, you know, to let us know.
Where's the join the commission? Recruiting members
I-
or the trust?
I can put that in there.
We're due for another run in the newspaper, but I was waiting until we have the new conservation agents. We need to change our message to the old one. The old one's great, but it's the old one. Gotta sneak in somehow. Don't let another volunteer. Free kittens. March 22nd ad.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Honestly, you guys do it amazing work. Yeah, yeah.
It's been busy. It's been really busy. And this, it's the only one that exists.
It's the prototype.
It's the prototype. Obviously, the next step is to take, you know, the content that's in the PDFs and get it formatted to actually print a new guide. And that's what's being worked on right now.
And where's the budget for that? Is that from the trust, the commission?
Yeah, this is a self-funded project right now.
Does the commission?
We have had money in the past for the trail committee. It's something I think we need to look at more so in the future too.
Well, this stuff is really post to net, and users will grab it and
Right.
either print it. I mean, there's no the upfront cost associated with building these maps. That's done, right? That work is done, and to get it out there and have people use it, that's for free, right?
Yeah.
The only you know, upfront is when we start to get into something like this, and you know, we'll most likely be working with the trust to get a guide published. You know,
Yes,
historically, it's always come from them.
Yeah.
And we feel like it's only in good faith to have them involved, you know, in the next iteration of the guidebook, only because they've been responsible for it for so long.
Yeah.
Besides, it's more than of us.
They're proven stewards of the land.
They are.
They know what they're doing. They
Yeah.
do it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, we wanted to share with the commission the exact presentation that we had given, you know, to the trust at this point. It was probably about a month ago.
Yeah.
And at that point, we only had about half the properties done. And since that time, we've now mapped, you know, all the properties, and, you know, could really, you know, create some cool programs, you know, with people in town, you know, send us your best photo. You know, and can't update
update
them
those
6,
sixes,
and we'll
yeah.
choose which one's the best, and hey, we'll update the map on the town website with your photo.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of different things that we could do to get people excited and interested and involved in the content that's in these documents.
Yeah, so the best 6.
Hmm.
We take all 6
Right.
photos, and then we judge who took the best 6.
Yeah, who took the best
All
6.
those best 6
Yeah.
locations,
Yeah.
yeah, we put the
Yeah,
6.
it's a possibility. Yeah.
They may, you know, if we talk about advertising and really celebrating it, because we really should if we get it online, there may be money available for that this year. And possibly in the future too, but this year, because so many projects are off a bit this year, we didn't spend down this year at the rate because we didn't have a person in place to spend it down, that if we had monies available, and we were trying to get the word out, whether it was advertising or just having something at the library, we probably would be able to find the funds for that this year. More buttons, Dan. People like my kids, yeah, right? Yeah, I do. Unless we have anything else official, we should probably close. And I don't know if you want to stay afterwards and we can go through some of these things. Do we have any other official business? Can I borrow one of these? Can I steal one of these from you?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
My wife is fascinated by your project.
Okay.
I've shared like slides with her, she's dying for
You
this.
want any more? I mean,
Anyway, I just wanted to give her an idea.
Now, these are not finished.
No, I
Publication.
understand, I will actually
And send
return
it
it to you
out to
next time, I
Kathy.
want to give her an
Okay.
idea.
Fair enough.
All right, I would like to make a motion that we officially close the February 24th meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.